Welcome back to another edition of the Throws Doc podcast. I'm your doc, Dr. Charles Inferno. We're writing scripts to cure your throwing ailments. We're recording here on Saturday, December 2nd, 2023. Just wrapped up our first and only indoor track meet of the season at Houghton College yesterday. It was just so interesting sitting back and it's my 15th or 16th first meet of the season as a coach, and it's so nice to be around the athletes and just get ready to see what their performances are going to look like after a full couple months of training. And we had some pleasant surprises yesterday, positive and negative, and I think that's the way it goes with track sometimes, that the best laid plans unfortunately go awry. And speaking of going awry, I was talking to one of my athletes about that for the better part of the whole meet. Since my athletes at Alfred State, everyone came in at no distance. We were all in flight one, and one athlete threw well enough to finished third overall, second collegiate out of flight one of the wait. There were 4 flights. So we had quite a bit of time to wait and just kind of hang out and just live and watch the action, the competition. And in conversation with one athlete, we were talking about performances and just how other athletes were competing. And I've been sharing mindset exercises and activities with my kids to ensure, or at least hopefully try to ensure, that if we do get into some sticky situations, dicey situations in meets, that we're hopefully able to overcome whatever ailment that might be. Competition anxiety, fear of competition, fear of what are people going to think of me in the circle, all these different things that on the surface might sound silly, or my goodness, you've been competing for so many years, like you get nervous, and nervous is good. Having a little bit of a sense of okay, I really need to perform now, that's good. A little bit of that pressure, that's good. Shows you care, one, and also shows that you do want to perform well, which is a good thing. And in our training, we do try and find, or at least I try and find, a healthy balance between the two. And it's never going to be 50-50 physical, mental per se, right? But in competition, for example, this is what I told my athlete yesterday. So in competition, for example, if we spend 95% of our practice time, 95% of the time that I have with my athletes, solely focused on physical attributes, turns, lifting, all these different things, right? That 95% in competition is controlled by the other 5% between your ears, okay? If you don't spend any time at all having any conversations about, well, if this happens, we do this. If I follow my first throw, I do that. If I follow my second throw, I do that. How to refocus in between throws. So last night we had a long time. 16 throwers per flight makes for a long day, right? Many minutes in between throws. So, like I was saying, if it's 99% physical, and maybe the only part of the mindset training is focused on goals or goal setting or just having a strategy, right? That's fine. But if you're in competition, all of those physical attributes, all of that physical stuff that you've spent weeks and weeks and months working on are controlled by the difference. And some research I've read with more Olympic sports, right? track and field, biathlon, triathlon, like all these different things, right? Your Olympic events. Some research has suggested up to 80-20, right? 80% of our training is physical, 20% is mindset, right? So 2 hours a week, if you train for 10 hours a week, depending on what the event is or what the sport is or when you're in season or out of season, then 20% of the time is focused on mindset, visualization, breathing, those other software type characteristics or traits that are going to get us where we want to go. And every meet happens, you have your top seeded athletes, something goes awry, somebody else wins, you have athletes from flight 1, flight 2 that make the finals after waiting around for 2 hours waiting for flight 3 and flight 4. And it happens every competition. Listen, I've been every meet, there's always something that happens like that, where someone doesn't live up to whatever their seed mark is or whatever their prior week's performance is, and then somebody that's been putting together 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of solid training, all of a sudden it clicks and poof, they have a national performance mark, or they hit a national qualified mark or something along those lines. But that is controlled by between the ears. And at our level, at Division 3, the margin for error is so slim, right? Going to nationals in the weight throw, going to nationals in the shot put, that's controlled by 2, 3, 4 centimeters sometimes. Like really the top 20, athlete 20 to athlete 30, depending on what event it is. It's like a second, 2 seconds, like 3 seconds. Like all of that could be remedied if there was more work dedicated to, all right, this is how I'm going to strategize in certain situations that I might be in competition, right? 60 meter dash, 200, really you don't have as much time, right? Because it's over so fast. But in your 8 mile, 1500, right? 3K, 5K, like all of these longer distance events, jumping events, throwing events, you have a lot of time in between. Take an attempt, you wait around for 3 or 4 minutes. Take another attempt, you wait around for 3 or 4 minutes. And what happens in that 3 or 4 minutes is ultimately going to dictate what happens with your next attempt. So that was the long and short of it was a 4-hour conversation yesterday for the most part, and the better part of 5 minutes here. But in asking around and talking to other athletes about things of that nature, it doesn't happen, and that's fine, and I understand, and I want to make sure that my athletes are as ready as they will be, or as ready as they can be for those rigors of competition. Did everything go really well yesterday? No. Sometimes there's things that are out of our locus of control, which that's a whole nother conversation of showing up at meets at 2:15 and expecting to throw at 4, and then the meet director says, hey, we have too many throwers, it's going to take too long, we're going to start at 3. Those are things that are out of our control as coaches and athletes, right? We can control our attitude, we control our focus, we control what our strategy is, we control what our plan is for competition. We control a lot. Unfortunately, there's some things that are just out of our control, and we'll talk about that in another episode. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Throws Doc Podcast. Your doc, Dr. Charles Inferna, and have a great day.